Welcome to NFL Live. Week 1 of the preseason in the books. We got a lot to dive into after all that, right? Jackson Dart found himself back in the blue medical tent after taking a massive hit in his preseason debut over the weekend. How concerned should New York be? Dan's going to weigh in. Plus, Fernando Mendoza looked sharp in his Raiders debut. As I mentioned, Dan's here. He's going to get back in the film room, show us what he liked from Mendoza's first NFL game. You don't want to miss this. And it looks like Buffalo may have finally gotten Josh Allen a real #1 target this season. Could Josh Allen and DJ Moore, this pairing, be the real deal in the AFC? So glad you're with us. Dan is here. There's a lot to get to.
Tons.
Do you have anything to say, though, before we get started?
About football or just in general?
I don't know. It could be anything.
It's mid-August. Everyone's clamoring for the NFL. I am as well. But let's enjoy the last 2 weeks of summer.
This is a man who just spit a bunch of Mentos that he chewed up into the trash can next to me. On that note,
Mentos is like gum, it's
no, it's not.
refreshing.
It's something that you swallow. Okay, the Rams worked out Aaron Donald for the second time this summer. On Sunday, the 3-time Defensive Player of the Year was listed as a player who, quote, tried out for the team, according to the NFL's Transaction Wire. I like that. You see him out there, you know what he can do, right? But I think the question is more about what this looks like long term, right? Donald inching closer to being a possibility. How would you look at this for how they manage him, Dan? Because they want to make sure he's ready down the stretch.
It's an organization and a team that is clearly has plans on playing 17 plus, certainly close to 20 games. So the wear and tear on the body and how much you're going to value that, I would imagine you're trying to get him up to as many snaps as you can per game in really November and December. If you look at the beginning of their schedule, there's a really tough stretch with that week 2, week 3, week 4 game, 3, 4, 5, which is at Denver, at Philly, Buffalo. And then after their bye week, you could play 7 straight playoff teams, starting with the Packers, obviously Kansas City, San Francisco, divisional game, Dallas, and then there's those 2 games sandwiched around the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so if I'm Sean McVay and the Rams, understanding 2 years since he's played, is it September, we're trying to get 10 to 15 meaningful snaps out of you, and as you go into the season, maybe that ramps up to 20 to 25. And then part of it is, what's his usage going to be? Is it first down defensive tackle? Is it passing game or passing situations defensive tackle? I think that's a little bit of a unknown and filling out process.
Well, I'm just curious, when you think about Aaron Donald as a player, though, is he the type of guy who's going to be okay with being limited in some ways? Like, that's not really who he is. And I believe, maybe I'm silly here, but I believe he's pretty much at the same level play-wise or strength-wise that he was before.
Yeah, I can't imagine there's a steep decline.
Right.
I don't think Aaron Donald's coming back to play football just to play football. It's not, I just want to get another season in. This is a championship caliber team. I want to be a part of a championship caliber team. One of the things that when I was with Sean McVay that I was immediately so taken aback with is he has such unbelievable leadership skills. And I would imagine this is a conversation that Sean McVay, Les Snead, their general manager, and Aaron Donald have had is, we understand that you want to come back week 1, play 70 snaps, and be Aaron Donald of old. But we also understand the value of you being your very best when it's going to be needed the most. February 14th is the Super Bowl. That's a long, long way away. And so I think it's that conversation and communication of what's going to be best for him and the team. When Aaron Donald played offenses, so quarterbacks, their average throw depth would be 6 yards. So they're only throwing the ball 6 yards downfield, and average would be about 2.5 seconds holding on to the football. So if Aaron Donald is back, and obviously the addition of Myles Garrett, you're talking about a defensive line that quarterbacks are going to have one thing on their mind: get it out of my hands, get it out of my hands, get it out of my hands. And so I think just for Chris Shula, their defensive coordinator, part of it is learning how to get Aaron Donald into the fold more so than how many reps we're going to play per game.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to maximize there. Now, if you think that we're having fun with this waiting game for Donald, check out the Instagram post that his wife made today on her IG story, making a joke at the Donald weekly pump faking the Rams on a potential return. I think she's having fun because I think he's coming back. So that makes sense. That to me, if you're a Rams fan, is a good sign.
I agree.
Let's go to some news out of Arizona. Cardinals rookie running back Jeremiah Jeremiah Love dealing with a high ankle sprain. On Saturday, their head coach Mike LaFleur said Love would miss this week, would be evaluated next week. The Cardinals hoping Love can be ready to play week 1 against the Chargers in LA. Sources telling our Adam Schefter that. So, Dan, if Love potentially misses time to start the year, how much does that affect this Arizona offense? We saw them use him a lot in the preseason.
Yeah, obviously significantly. When he was playing the other night, I'm not saying they're the same player, but there were moments when you watch him run and it looks like Adrian Peterson.
Whoa.
The size, the violence, the shiftiness, and the strength. And so this is an offense that's very young and talented. And then you add him to it, he was going to be a focal point of theirs. Obviously, the two receivers on the perimeter, Marvin Harrison Jr., Mike Wilson, good players, Trey McBride. But he was going to add a new element to this offense and kind of overcome maybe what might be an average, at best, offensive line. But I do think if you're Arizona, you're trying to be smart. You're aware that you're not going to be a contender this season when it comes to a playoff push. He's a huge part of your potential future once you get more talent around in the quarterback. So I think it'd be a significant loss when it comes to, what to look forward to and potential.
He's a bit of a bright spot.
Yeah, but Algier's a good player. So it's not like they don't have anybody behind him that can't have impact.
And Algier's been pretty solid when it comes to just being out there. He's missed just 1 game in 4 NFL seasons. We'll keep an eye, though, on Jeremiah Love. All right, let's stay in the NFC West. The defending Super Bowl champion Seahawks made their Pro Bowl cornerback Devin Witherspoon the highest paid corner in NFL history over the weekend, handing him a 4-year, $132 million contract extension. Witherspoon now the highest paid corner in the league. What makes him, Dan, just so special at his position, especially when you think about what opposing quarterbacks are keeping in mind when you got a lot for him out there on the defense?
3 players in one. 1, can he cover on the outside in the perimeter? Absolutely. 2, can he play safety, whether it's in a half-field safety or in the middle of the field and be a ball hawk? Absolutely. And then can he play that nickel or star position where he's in between, close to the football, but having to play coverage? Absolutely. You're getting 3 players in one, and that versatility is such a big deal. You can tackle on the outside. You can blitz. You're big and long enough that you can be utilized in those situations. You can cover in both man and zone. And from an offensive perspective, when you have to go against the defensive back, that you don't really gather a ton of matchup advantage. Some premier receivers might have that, but you don't gather a ton of matchup advantage. Your length and range deep in the middle half or middle of the field is a big deal. And then his ability to pressure, but not only pressure, but kind of have a screening to the throw is a big deal. So he's one of the best defensive players in football right now.
All right, so I realize everyone's enjoying this podcast that we're doing here, but we're going to upgrade it a little bit. We had some technical issues with Mina Kimes. She is now joining us. Welcome to the show, Mina. We get to start you out talking about...
upgrade?
Well, that was, because common sense. Okay, Devin Witherspoon, Mina, what do you think about him and really why he could be deserving of that highest paid corner spot in the NFL?
Dan hit it when he talked about how complete his game is and his versatility. And it's so important to what this Super Bowl winning Seattle defense did, which is their ability to defend the run from sub packages when teams put big bodies on the field. In order to do that, you have to have players at all 3 levels who can tackle, who are willing tacklers. And Witherspoon is exactly that. Also, thinking about many of the offensive trends right now, teams getting into those condensed formations. Again, having corners who can tackle like Witherspoon can is so significant. He is the only cornerback in the NFL who ranks both top 10 in coverage DVOA and yards per carry on run tackles. The completeness of his game is what makes him so special. As well as, and Dan touched on this too, the inside-out versatility from a matchup perspective allows Seattle to move him around depending on who their opponents are and what their opponents are doing with their wide receiver ones. Just everything they could have hoped for and more when they drafted him 5th overall. And not surprising that they got this deal done.
Yeah, they've done such a good job drafting. $101 million guaranteed. Really fast, guys. I now am thinking about what our podcast name would be. I have a couple ideas. I'm going to say good taste and bad taste.
Apparently my taste is not received well by some people, yes.
Or what about one L of a show?
Oh, I like that one. How about this story?
I like that.
Quickly,
it's more about me.
With the taste thing, a friend came over. She had sunglasses on, my wife's friend. I go, your sunglasses are hideous. She goes, that means they're absolutely perfect.
I this spread. Okay, on top of the Witherspoon deal, we are not going to have a podcast, apparently. They also extended Jackson Smith-Njigba, giving the Seahawks the highest paid cornerback and wide receiver in NFL history. They also re-signed Josh Jobe and Rashid Shaheed after letting go of Super Bowl MVP Kenneth Walker. Some key pieces also to their secondary. So, Dan, given all that change from last season's Super Bowl roster, even when you see it there, it's going to look a lot different. What is the biggest question hanging over the defending champs as they start the season?
Play calling. Play calling is an art. Just because there's a lot of good football coaches in the NFL, they would all tell you they're probably really good at coaching football and maybe not ideal at calling plays. They lose Clint Kubiak, who went to the Raiders and had the #1 pick in the NFL draft, and they took a quarterback. So it tells you how smart he is. I think when you look at the last 4 Super Bowl champions that lost their offensive coordinator, there was a significant decline in the performance of that offense. You go back only a season or 2 seasons ago now to the Philadelphia Eagles, completely fell off the planet. The Chiefs went from 1st to 15th and so on. And so, Brian Fleury, probably a very good coach. He might become a great offensive coordinator. We just don't know. He's never called plays at this level. And so while he's been a part of great rooms and great offenses and great teams, until you're in that, it's a big question mark for the defending Super Bowl champ.
Yeah, especially because offensively, outside of Walker, they really ran it back. Keeping Shaheed was a priority. You finally have some continuity on this offensive line. So Fleury ostensibly has everything he needs, right, on offense. Defensively, I think they're perhaps more comfortable with some attrition there because with Mike McDonald, he is capable of scheming up that defense. And also, they still have many superstars there. I think when you go back to the Seahawks' offensive season last year, the defense was phenomenal from start to finish. The offense, it was really kind of a tale of 2 seasons. First half, so explosive in the passing game against base defenses. They were bad running the ball. And then that flipped in the second half of the year. And I thought Clint Kubiak did a phenomenal job of evolving that run game, sticking with it when it became the strength and something they were lean on. So I think for Fleury, that's a challenge too. The course of the season, within games, right? Kubiak was really good at sequencing, finding ways to get Jackson Smith-Njigba involved when defenses took him out. Those are the things we really won't know until we see it in action with him. But as far as the players that they prioritize keeping, I really think he has everything he needs here on offense.
Yeah, the Seahawks ranked 3rd in points per game last season. We'll see if they can continue that or break the trend, maybe even get better. All right, some top stories from around the NFL, starting in New York, where Jets running back Breece Hall suffered a strained groin today, per head coach Aaron Glenn. I don't think it was a big deal, Glenn told reporters, but something to monitor as we get closer to week 1 for the Jets for sure. And Vikings defender Jamal Adams, who was carted off in Saturday's preseason game, suffered a torn right quadricep Saturday, per Kevin O'Connell. Same injury. Remember, he suffered with the Seahawks in 2022, but this is on the other leg. So surgery upcoming. Adams was placed on season-ending IR today. You hate to see that. Hey, we're just getting... Oh, no! Turn away, Giants fans. Jackson Dart taking a hard hit in preseason week 1. You hate to see it. That's what they're trying to avoid, right? But it happened. Dart spoke after the game about being evaluated in the medical tent.
As far as the blue tent, I really respect the rules and the thought behind, the NFL has of keeping players healthy and reviewing things. But at the same time, I'm still puzzled by it just feeling like every time that I get hit, I just find my way in there, which at times I still try to wrap my head around. But that's all that I'm going to say about that situation.
All right, so Dan, the story of Jackson Dart in the medical tent continued this weekend in preseason, but was Dart actually the one to blame for all that? Is there more blame to be dispersed around him?
No, it's 0.01% on him. It's the running back's fault. The running back has to be able to pick that up. I do think it's an example of, one, have to be aware that you can't expose yourself at all because you probably are a little bit more with the eye on you with the blue tent. But it does overshadow which was a nice start for Jackson Dart in this new offense. I thought the connection that he had with Isaiah Likely multiple times, the ball came out quickly. That was nice. You saw him make some plays in structure and out of structure. And so the decision-making was there under this new offense with Matt Nagy and his new tight end weapon. So you love to see that. And then he has the broken play where Malachi Fields adjusts and him and Scatterbo kind of see it the same way, and it's this really nice play. That should be the storyline coming out of week 1 for the Giants, is some of these young players developing together and continuing to build hope for this season, rather than Jackson Dart having another situation or issue with the tent. So I'm not putting it on him, but I do think it's a opportunity to remind in the sensitivity of, like, you can't also then expose yourself on first down in the first quarter to some of the hits you did last year. Learn from that.
Yeah.
Some of the sacks also, just in general, had to do with Brian Flores saying, hey, it ain't preseason for me.
Yeah.
Actually, I noticed a few defensive play callers along the league leaning into more pressures and maybe more exotic looks than we've seen in the preseason. As far as the Giants go, when I'm watching starters in the preseason, generally I'm looking for individual performances. Dan, you highlighted a couple of them, Likely and Fields, who, by the way, also got his nose dirty blocking for the run. I think that's going to get him on the field too. That's meaningful. And then you're looking for shifts and tendencies in the offense. And I think with New York, there's an interesting one. They are going to use the fullback, Patrick Ricard, a lot. On first down last season, this Giants offense had 4 snaps the entire season with more than one back on the field. They had 3 on first down in 2 drives for Jackson Dart, 21 and 22 personnel. So this is a offense, I think, that's going to go very heavy, even when Malik Neighbors is back. That's going to be the identity of the team. Hopefully they can get some base defenses off of that they can play action, they can attack with play action. But I do think, to me, Dan, that was kind of the big takeaway I had from this game, was all right, John Harbaugh brought Patrick Ricard to New York for a reason. He is going to be a huge part of this offense moving forward.
Yeah, and Mina, you mentioned Malik Neighbors. How about this? New on NFL Live from our Giants reporter, Jordan Renan. Malik Neighbors actually took reps in live 11-on-11 drills while wearing a red jersey, usually reserved for quarterbacks. He also caught 3 passes in 7-on-7 drills. So this is the first time in full-speed live drills since tearing his knee. Great to see. There have been some questions around what Neighbors' health actually would look like. I think we all agreed if he's healthy, that changes the way we look at this offense, so we'll keep an eye on that. Elsewhere in the NFC East, Von Miller signing with the Cowboys. The 8-time Pro Bowler agreed to a 1-year contract worth $5.5 million with a max value of $7.5 million. Miller knows Texas well. He attended DeSoto High School before Texas A&M, so he's back home in a way. And Miller's former teammate in Denver, DeMarcus Ware, said this on the signing. Quote, you got a lot of guys that come in, older guys, former guys like me, and they can teach. But it's different when you got somebody sitting in the seat with you that's going to get padded up, learning the same things as you and performing. Those guys, they looked up to you, but their whole careers. But now I get to play with him. It's a totally different mindset the boys are going to have now. He's talking about some of that youth that they're going to rely on for the Cowboys. And now they get to say, yeah, I grew up watching you, and now you're my teammate. Mina, Miller, late in his career, right? But this has been the offseason of the Cowboys' immediate impact on this Dallas D.
He gives
good immediate impact on this Dallas D.
He gives them depth, which is something they now kind of have a lot of at edge. And it actually reminds me a little bit of the build in Seattle, where the strength of your team is your defensive tackles. Quinnen Williams is the focal point of this defensive line. But at edge now, you have Rashawn Gary, who you added, Donovan Ezaraku, who I think quietly was quite good last year. You add Von Miller, you got the first-round draft pick Malachi Lawrence. A lot of those players, by the way, are very good against the run as well, similarly to Seattle. But I think the point is this. This is a defense that's going to rush for a lot, and now you have waves of pass rushers that you can send at the quarterback over the course of the game. So even if he's not, obviously 2016 Von Miller, just having him there late in the game as a depth piece is going to be valuable for this defense.
Von Miller had 9 sacks last season. The Cowboys defense had 9 sacks on third down as a unit.
Ooh.
So no, he is not going to be a guy that breaks the sack record, but 9 sacks in only 246 pass rushes is pretty darn good. And so for a unit that is vastly improved, for the opportunity to have this guy in a clear and obvious pass rush situation 10 times a game, 12 times a game is going to be a massive deal. I think it's situationally a good addition. If we fast forward to December and you tell Cowboys fans, hey, Von Miller's got 10 sacks, that means the Cowboys are more than likely a top half defense.
Yeah.
He's played in situational football, and they're probably going to be a playoff team. And so I think that this is something that not only will, in those moments, give him the chance to either win one-on-ones or maybe attract a little of attention, but also in the division last year, those two young pass rushers now can tap into him about some of those divisional opponents, both scheme and individual talent.
Yeah, 7.5 of those 9 sacks you're talking about came on plays with exactly 4 pass rushers. So. And how about this? We're talking about Fernando Mendoza, too, as we should. The #1 overall pick, Fernando, sharp in his preseason debut. He completed 10 of 16 passes for 97 yards and a touchdown during 4 drives. Mendoza spoke after his preseason debut about Raiders minority owner Tom Brady addressing the team the night before that first preseason game. Here's what he said.
Mr. Brady was able to talk to our team last night, and he said, like, no matter how good of a high school or college player you were, the NFL is a different level. And I felt that tonight, and I have a lot to grow from.
I love how he calls him Mr. Brady.
Always probably will.
I know. Okay, you've had a chance to dive into the film of Mendoza's first NFL action. I'm really excited to see this. What did you like from him in his Raiders debut?
Yeah, they attacked, and Fernando attacked some of the stuff. The main thing he did not do in college, which is that under center stuff. So this is early in that game that he's going to obviously start from under center. This concept, the single receiver is going to run what we call a locked stop route. Ball snapped at the 21-yard line. Locked means he's not reading the coverage, okay? The route is the route. He wants to get to about 16 to 18 yards and split really between the numbers and the hash. That's the location of that route. And when you do that, timing's everything. So underneath the center, he sends that motion. Didn't do this in college. Step #1, when you get the snap, do you belly the ball? What I mean by belly the ball is you want the ball right onto your belly button because these linemen, they could swing hands at some point. That's really good. #2, when you go with that fake, I need you to not only show the ball, but then I want you to lean down. You're going to see Fernando show that ball, then lean down because that's what the handoff is going to look like in real life. So there's that lean. That's perfect. Now, that's locked stop is designated 16 to 18 yards. That means Fernando has to get the ball out right now at the top of his drop. So you can see Fernando, great throwing position. That's well done. Pulling the trigger, and that receiver's just starting to drop his hips at that 16 to 18-yard location. Told everybody it should be caught around the 37 to 38-yard line. It is caught in between those defenders at the 37 to 38-yard line. We just didn't see, and I did not see a lot of that at Indiana. That's well done. Now we'll go to another under center. This time, no play action drop back, sends the motion. Now, when he goes underneath, it's going to be a 5-step drop, no fake. He's going to look up top to be the #1 receiver or #1 read in this progression, which is going to be an out route. First thing I love, once again, outstanding throwing position. You can tell he's worked at it. He wants to throw this out route. It's not there. That's the #1 part of the read. So when he's looking to that #1 part of the read, he's going to pull this linebacker there. Does he like to throw? No. So when he resets, he's got to see where this linebacker is. He does, realizing because he was looking up top, he's pulling him there. And here comes #2 of the progression. Remember, I told everybody, that's #1. It's not there. This is #2. So this has got to do a really nice job of peeking up top, reset, and that ball's coming out. What's great is that linebacker's driving there at the same time as Fernando's resetting to throw the in route right behind him, and then the ball is on time and on the right place. So those two clips, for a young man that really didn't do that stuff in Indiana, and candidly, that was a concern of mine coming out of school, to be shown it that quickly and executing at a high level this early on, that's well done.
Good on you, by the way, just giving him some props. By the way, how's my belly the ball?
You got belly the ball.
Right here.
You never know when a guard is going to get hit by defensive tackle, and then you're going to get blamed. They're not going to blame the guard.
I normally do.
Belly the pad. Belly the iPad.
Okay, belly in the pad. All right, we got a lot of preseason action still. Week 2 of the NFL preseason, thank you for that demo, Dan, continues this week. Some that you don't want to miss. Thursday and Friday on NFL Network. The Raiders taking on the Texans Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. That's our Monday Night Football preseason game. Watch NFL preseason games on NFL Network now. Also streaming on the ESPN app. And we will see you from Houston on ESPN Thursday. Let's get to some quick reads. What stood out to us in week 1 of the preseason? Dan, kick us off. You're talking about DeJon Stribling.
Oh, Stribling.
He really made an impact on you.
I think he's really going to become the go-to wide receiver for the San Francisco 49ers. 1, seems really smart with the different ways that they're aligning him. 2, his ability to be strong when the ball is in the air. I've said this a little bit. There's a lot of Puka Nacua element in there where when the ball was there, he would just go attack the football. I think Stribling's going to sniff 80 catches, 1,000 yards in San Francisco.
Wow, they need that, right? I was really impressed by Drew Aller. 3 touchdowns, a passer rating of 154.8. Saw some of his mobility on display, too, right? And I realized, okay, it was against the Packers' third-team defense, but he was accurate. You could immediately see improved footwork, even from his time in college. The athleticism was on display at times, too. I enjoyed watching him. Going to be interesting to see how they use him going forward, Mina.
So my preseason observation isn't a player, but a trend I want to talk about, which is these quarterbacks under center at a high rate, 45% of the time in week 1. That compares to an NFL average of 35% last season, which is a monumental number, especially, by the way, if you narrow it down to the first quarter, it's even more with the starters. So I think there's a few things that have played into this. One is play callers clearly prioritizing, want to put these young quarterbacks under center. Dan talked about it with Mendoza. But college football is a gun game now, and a lot of these quarterbacks don't have a ton of experience under center. Clearly, that was a priority. Ty Simpson, Aller, Nussmeier, all of them you saw under center. Another thing is just a lot of the coaching hires around the league. Many of the new offensive coordinators are coming from the Shanahan tree. So you have an offense like Philadelphia, even though Jalen Hurts isn't out there, they still want to rep more under center for everyone because we're going to see a lot more of it this year. Washington as well, as an example. And then some existing play callers, offenses making a philosophical change. Cincinnati is one Dan and I were talking about while we were watching week 1. I mean, last season, Joe Burrow was under center, like the second lowest rate in football, 19% of the time. In the drives he played in the preseason, over 50% of the snaps when he was on the field, he was under center. So clearly, Cincinnati is trying to rep this in live action because they plan on changing their ways during the regular season. And I think this is only the beginning of something I expect we're going to continue seeing all preseason long.
Yeah, preseason and then into the regular season, right? To Mina's point. Dan, you like this trend we're starting to see here?
I feel like NFL Live started the trend like 4 years ago.
Oh, my
it's
goodness.
Just taking some teams, because of their style of play, time to catch on. I think we've talked about this for a couple seasons now of the whys, and I think we're starting to see more teams and organizations make it a little bit more of a focal point. And I think even more so, 2 reasons why are, one, if defenses are really going to live in this, we're going to force you to be efficient shell of a defense. I think the only way you can be explosive on offense is play action pass. That's the only way. You're not going to be explosive in the play action pass game from the gun as nearly as effective as you are from underneath the center. So there's just like the cat and mouse of cause and effect. And then I think there was an era, probably about 10 years ago, when I think teams and organizations became a little bit overly comfortable with exposing their quarterbacks to all these different kinds of hits. The mobile quarterback became a much bigger part of the NFL, and it was quarterback run, and it's, well, what about protecting them? It's like, we're taking hits. I think the NFL is going back to being like, no. We don't want our quarterbacks touched at all anymore, and unless we have to in some situational football. And I think the more that you put the guy underneath center, the more you could bring people into the protection that might be able to be full-time or even help early on to get the play started. And I think that's going to be a staple for the NFL this year.
Burrow's a really interesting case study in what you just described, right? Because they were under center a lot his rookie season. He got killed. It almost felt like he wanted to be in the gun for a litany of reasons, one of which was he felt, I can get this ball out quick, I can read out the defense, get it in the hands of my playmakers. And it was incredibly, it's still effective, but it's no longer explosive, to your point. Exactly. I mean, last season when Burrow came back, this offense was 20th in explosive play rate. The season before, they were like 27th. They were incredibly efficient, but to Dan, to your point, they weren't able to access that under center play action game that teams use to get to their explosives. And this feels like Cincinnati saying, all right, we need to make this work. And I think what's interesting is, right, Joe Burrow took a sack, right? It was just a 2-man concept, under center play action. They ran a great stunt, whatever. There might be some growing pains. And I think for Cincinnati, Dan, what I'm interested in seeing is, will you stick with this? Because we have seen them kind of flirt with it at times and then just go back to that gun game because they know it works. Under center, it's not just like they have to sequence the run and the pass together, and it has to be an entire philosophy as an offense. It can't just be something they sprinkle in.
I agree, and it's also that tight end and tackle need reps together of how they're verbally and not verbally going to handle a individual rusher or a stunt rusher. And the protection rules change on the fly depending on if a defense brings a blitz. I think defenses are going to blitz more this year because if offenses are going to chase explosive and efficient, we're going to try to, as a defense, create TFLs would at least be my philosophy. So everybody needs those reps. I also think, MK, because of some of the infusion of the Vic Fangio-style coverages where it's so match-oriented, that's taken away some of the spread-out RPO, quick throw efficiency, and also some of the yards after the catch stuff. And so this is this constant evolution of the game, but also cyclical element of the game. I agree. I'll be interested to see if some of the teams, Buffalo does it, Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs do it. Will they be disciplined enough to kind of do what's best for their offense, not just what's best for the quarterback?
I mean, it's fascinating. Only Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have actually attempted more throws in shotgun than Burrow since 2021.
Yeah.
I wonder, too, like Burrow has a lot of ownership of this whole thing. I wonder if he's patient enough to stick with it if it's not exactly what he wants it to be. All right, still to come, George Kittle trying to complete his welcome back to NFL Live. We begin with what we just promised you. All right, we're going to talk about San Francisco. Tight end George Kittle spoke Sunday about his hopes to play Week 1 while he's recovering from tearing his Achilles late last season.
Like I've said, I have a chance. We're running around a lot, hitting top speeds. Hopefully we're back in pads practicing sooner than later. Just trying to check the boxes and not be a dumb, is what I would say.
All right, Dan, if Kittle is cleared to play Week 1, is there any reason to hold him out of that game?
No, I mean, if he's medically cleared, you trust your doctors, and then you trust George and get his opinion on it. This is a loaded division. We know that Seattle and LA are outstanding. It's a conference that is loaded. And so if one of, if not your best players and one of the most impactful guys is medically cleared and has the chance to be on the field Week 1, and you trust him, I think you put him out in the field.
Oh, interesting. Okay, to Buffalo, where we got our first glimpse of the Bills' new offensive duo of Josh Allen and wideout DJ Moore. In their preseason opener against the Panthers, Moore hauled in 3 receptions for 61 yards with 1 catch going for a long of 32 yards. Mina, what did you make of our first look at the Josh Allen-DJ Moore combo in Buffalo?
The Bills' offense is going to be extremely fun. And it's not just Moore. I think the wide receiver group as a whole with him now. Josh Palmer, by the way, full season as well, looked quite good. Khalil Shakir getting targets downfield. It's a talented group. Moore brings a second gear in terms of his juice with the ball in his hands, but also winning on those deep balls, I think will be important as well. The thing I'll say, though, is this. For me, DJ Moore, the test of whether or not he can be a true difference maker in this offense versus, last year they were already great, is going to be whether or not it becomes their focal point against man coverage. Didn't face man coverage in this game, so we didn't really see it. But that's something I'm going to be watching for earlier in the season. Does Josh look to him in those situations? Because, Dan, that's what was missing last year. Bills faced a ton of man coverage, and they didn't have anyone who could beat it.
Yeah, specifically on the outside. Like those outside throws, those numbers throws, they're so good. Joe Brady, who's play caller, now head coach, scheming things up. That's why you see so many shifts and motions to try to beat with scheme, man. I do think the thing that stood out in this game, and I'm not overblowing it, is the fact that they were on the same page for a lot of their throws. I understand small sample size. This shallow cross is more of a scheme thing and certainly a blown element by Carolina's defense. But the out route from the condensed split, understanding how to get open or where to get open in the space, and then that corner route where he's got a seam down inside, Josh peeks the defender to drop down, DJ flattening off at the right space in location and not keeping it too high or too shallow, I think is a really good sign of them being on the same page. But I agree with the man stuff. I don't want people to think that DJ Moore is going to go into Buffalo, get 80 catches for 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns. That's just not how they're built. I think to Mina's point, when you get into the really impactful and or important moments of games when they're going to get man coverage on 3rd and 5, having a guy that could just go win on a slant is awesome. I still think DJ Moore is that player.
Man, that makes me excited for Josh Allen. You think about those situations. By the way, again, bigger picture, they fire Sean McDermott. Joe Brady's now tasked with this. Like, it's for those big moments in those games to take
Play
that
your
next
best
step.
in January.
Yeah, okay. We've got more coming your way next, and this team's still trying to figure out the quarterback situation. The Browns have yet to decide on a starting QB, but did Saturday's game change anything? Find out why Mina says what she saw has her looking outside of Cleveland. For the Browns answer under center, that's next.